all so much. Can we give the band another round of applause? This is just so good. Trying to see where you guys went so I can make eye contact. Oh, there they are back there. Great job. Really, really good. Really good. So as Matthew said, my name is Todd, and I do have a table out there for youth leaders. If we've not had a chance to say hi, I'd love to just kind of get to know you a little bit and see if we could ever encourage you. You got to give away something free, right? So I have one t-shirt. These are available out there, but I just saw this section, hands go up. It is your birthday, isn't it? That's true. Okay, I'm going to throw it over here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to give her, I'm right there. Wow. Okay. Hey, so great job and happy birthday. Again, I was going to ask Matt if he would send a text to my parents until he sent the second one, and then I thought better of it, so I'm not gonna do that. But just real quick, again, it's such an honor to be here. It's such a privilege to be here. This is such a fun event, and I thought I would just real quick just kind of introduce myself and my family. This is a picture of us. This is me there, and my wife is in the middle. We've been married for 27 years. And then it's my son, who's the tallest of us. His name's Caleb. And then Brianna is in front of him. And then Addison is actually with me out at the table. And so that's us. It's a little bit about who we are. And I'm just excited to be here. Hey, as we talk about your year, I'm gonna go back to the 80s again, like we did in the game this morning. I want to ask you if you could. We are in March. Can you do me a favor and go back to September, first day of school? Yeah. You remember that? Do you remember that day? Do you remember and not just this day, this first day, but first days of school? It's different, right? It plays different. How many of you on first day had new clothes? That was not you. Okay, I'm sorry about that. How many of you? Maybe youth leaders in the room remember first day of school always having new clothes. First day, yep. Anybody have brand new school supplies not really been used yet? Right? Youth leaders, how many of you remember Trapper Keepers? Right? Remember that? You're just it's so nice, and it Velcro and it opened. It was so great. If you don't know what a Trapper Keeper is, again, I just apologize because you missed out. First day of school. A lot of you, first day of school, had kind of in your mind, this is the year. I'm going to be all in. I'm going to do better in school. My grades are going to be better. Anybody this year is, I'm going to do better. Start out that first day. I am going to work harder. This year, I'm going to make the team. This year, I'm going to try out for that. And we try to do those things. And we make these commitments to go all in. And this morning, I want to say to you, I want to share with you, I want to encourage you. And this may sound a little bit like of a downer of a message, but I want to encourage you, and I hope it does. Is sometimes, no matter how good our plans are, no matter how much the commitments are there to go all in, things sometimes don't go the way we want them to go. In fact, sometimes things go terribly wrong. I have to be honest, I'm a little insecure this morning because I was at the hotel and I came down to just get a quick breakfast as we left to come over here. And there was a group of students who I was pretty sure were part of this group. So I did this thing, and I don't know if you've ever done it, where you see somebody wave and you're like, hey, and then you realize they're not waving at you. You're like, oh, it's them. Or you see someone you think you know and you wave real big, and then you're just like, oh, that's not them, nope. I was waving to the person behind you. I don't know if you've ever experienced, but this girl walks by, and if you're here, don't point her out or anything. I'm just saying I'm super insecure and awkward this morning because I think this is a girl who was here, but I'm not 100% sure, right? So she walked by, and I was like, hey, good morning. And she looked at me like I was the biggest creeper. And I was like, hey, are you ready? And she's like, during comments, she's like, for what? And I was like, okay, maybe. And it was in that moment where I was like, maybe this is not a student from Renew. And my daughter's standing there, right? And she's 10, and she's looking at me like, what are you doing? And I thought, I'm just going to go for it. And I was like, you ready for this morning? And she's like, didn't even, like, just broke eye contact and walked away. And I was like, man, I hope I see her today. That I could, like, not like go, hey, I'm sorry for making you uncomfortable. Just in my own peace of mind that I said hi to someone who's here and I'm actually not, in fact, a creeper. That would actually be really nice for me. So if you're here, maybe you could just say hi. But anyway, sometimes things just go wrong, right? I don't want you to point out this person in your group, but here's what I know about being in youth ministry for 27 years. Every group has a student that if somebody's going to get in trouble or somebody's going to get hurt, it's always like that person, right? Like, you know who that is? In the one group I had, his name was Joey. And so I always like to say every group has a Joey. Now, you guys are kind of laughing going, oh, we know right away who Joey is, right? If you're just like, I'm not sure who that is, chances are it's you. So I took a group of students to a thing called Winter Jam. Has anybody ever been to Winter Jam? All right. So a lot of good music. And it's like $10 at the door. So I told students, I'm like, listen, here's what you're going to do. I need everybody to bring $10 and then bring a little bit of extra money because at the end, when on our way home, we'll stop at McDonald's because I'm a good youth pastor, right? I'm a good youth. We're going to treat you guys to a little bit of McDonald's. We'll have some fun. It'll be late. And I know there's a McDonald's open 24 hours on the way home. So we go, we have a really great time. Everybody gets in, we enjoy all the concerts. We get back in the van, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm a pretty good youth pastor. Like, I didn't lose anybody this time, right? I'm like, we got to where I had a plan. I'm doing great. Like, the plans are working the way I want them to go. We get to McDonald's, we park the van, and I before we let everybody out, I go, okay, guys, listen real quick. At this point, it was literally like 12:15 a.m. And I'm like, guys, do me a favor. The people who are working at McDonald's at 12:15 a.m., like, this isn't like their year. This isn't their dream job. So we're not going to make their life difficult. I want you to go in, I want you to order food, I want you to pay for food, we're going to eat the food, we're going to clean up, and we're going to leave. So you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to race pickles down the windows this time, Joey. Right? Like, I was like, so we have the plan. We communicate clearly. Everybody's like, you good? We're good. Let's go in. So we go in. We get in the nice big line. I'm at the very end because I'm a good youth pastor. And at the end of the line, I'm kind of watching to make sure everybody gets through the line. Joey is first in line because Joey. And I watch him order, right? And I kind of start walking up a little bit just to make sure he's good. And he's staring at the menu board like He's staring at the menu board like he had never been to McDonald's in his life. And he's just looking at it like, I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know what. And so he finally goes, I'll have the number 1. And so the girl's like, okay, boop, boop, boop. And he goes, no, wait. That's not what I want. The girl working, she's kind. She doesn't make the groan that you guys just made. And I thought, employee of the month. And Joey was like, you know what, I'll have the number 2. She's like, okay. She deletes number 1, boop, 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 puts the number 2, boop. No, wait. Then I heard it. I heard her groan all the way near the end of the line, and I just thought, Joey, come on. At this point, one of my leaders steps in, and he turns Joey almost as like to say, tell me what you want, and I'll tell her, like, I'll translate for you. So Joey goes, you know what, I just want a cheeseburger, a small fry, and a large sweet tea. And he looks at me and goes, yeah, see, none of those aren't that thing. Like, you just have to say those words. So he looks at the girl. He'll just have a hamburger, he'll have a large sweet tea, and a small fry. And she's like, okay. She's irritated now. Boop, boop, boop. And she's like, okay, that'll be like $3.89 or whatever it was. And he looks at the leader, and he goes, oh, I don't have any money. Because Joey, right? So anyway, my leader goes, all right, here's what I want, and I'll just pay for it together. He orders, pays. And I thought, okay, that wasn't the worst. Like, we did okay. So Joey goes and he gets his food and he starts to leave. I go back to the end of the line. I start talking to students. All of a sudden, I hear a commotion over where the drink station is. And I think to myself, if you leave now, like, if you just walk out the door, get in the van and drive home, no one would blame you. Like, you would be fine. And I thought, no. I'm a good youth pastor. So I walk towards the commotion and I walk over to the drink station, and I see Joey, who is now holding that giant cup that he just got from the counter, and he's holding it at a weird angle. And he's kind of standing like this, and his eyes are just ginormous, right? And he's looking at me like, what do I do? And I was like, what in the world? So I walk over, and Joey's getting a sweet tea, right, from those like 10-gallon sweet tea containers. And somehow he managed to break the nozzle off the front. And so the sweet tea is just shooting out like a good foot from the container, and he's catching it with the cup. And I was kind of proud of him that he's catching it. And I walk over, and I was like, oh, my goodness. So I turned back around to the employees, and I was like, hey, like, sweet girl, employee of the month, can you come help us? Because I can foresee what's happening. My friend Joey can't. He doesn't understand what's about to happen. So can you send some help? And I turned him around, and Joey's face went from, like, fear to kind of sympathy. And I remember for a split second thinking, why is Joey looking at me like he feels sorry for me? And then he spoke, and he said, sorry, it's full. And he walked away because his cup was full of sweet tea. Like, he was good, and the sweet tea hits me. Like, it like shoots it. And I was like, oh, man, Joey. And I'm like, there's just sweet tea like shooting out of this thing. And it was just adrenaline and panic. And I see the nozzle, and I was like, oh, I'll just put it back on. And so I grab it, and I go to put it on. And if you've ever had a hose that has water coming out of it and you try to put one of those handles on, you know what happens next, right? I go to jam it in, and it just sprays. Like, just sprays sweet tea. And I was like, oh, my word. Like, I'm just, like, covered in it. I'm like, well, that was stupid. And I go back over to, like, again, the sweet girl, and I was like, hey, like, seriously, we really could use some help. And I'm, like, now dripping. I was like, hey, if you could just send somebody, that'd be great. Like, I know you're great. Like, play the month. And so I go back over, and one of my other leaders has come over now. And he goes, Todd, we need to tip the container. Because if we get the tea below that line, it'll stop. And I looked at him and I said, Matt, you're a genius. And so we both grabbed this thing. Now remember, my adrenaline's pumping, right? And I know his is now too, right? So we grabbed this container and we tilted it. And I learned two really valuable lessons in that moment. The first one is those sweet tea container lids just sit there. And those McDonald's employees, the employees of the month, they fill those things all the way to the top, even at midnight. So what happened next, I can only describe to you, was a tidal wave of sweet tea that went out over the back and rolled down the front counter. And I looked at Matt, who, like, we put the thing down, and he looked at me, like, and I just said, Matt, you're an idiot. And he just went, I know. And he walked away. At this point, I'm covered in tea. Tea's everywhere. I look back for that sweet girl, right? Now the whole kitchen has come out. All the French fry guys, right, the burger, they're all standing at the counter like. And I looked at them, I was like, you know, this isn't my problem. I don't work here. I'm not even getting sweet tea. And so I just walk away. And I get back in line. I order my food. I go and I sit down with my friend who is a youth leader who paid for Joey's food. I look at him, and I'm, like, out of breath. I'm covered in sweet tea. I'm like, and he's laughing. And I look at him, and I go, what's so funny? Like, did you see what happened? And he's like, yeah, I saw that. And I was like, wait, why didn't you help me? And he goes, Todd, in your wildest imagination, did you have any idea that was going to happen tonight? And I kind of paused, and I started laughing too, and I was like, no, that was definitely not part of my plan. That was not what I was expecting or hoping would happen, but that sometimes is our reality, that no matter how much we go in, no matter how much we make the decisions, no matter how much we try, sometimes things just don't go the way we want them to go. And I want to share with you just a couple quick things. The first one is, no matter how much we try to give our best, it's nowhere near, it's not even close to God's best. And so I want that to be the first thing you hear, because I want you to be encouraged that no matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, no matter what commitments you make, your best is not even as close to God's best. And so we don't quit when we're all in. We just sang this amazing song about God being our foundation. And I loved hearing you sing those words because it is so true that God is our foundation. He is the one we rest on. No matter how bad things get, we don't quit because we're all in. No matter how hard we try, it doesn't even come close to God's best for us. So if you're here today, and if you're saying, Todd, you know what? I want to be a Jesus follower. I want my life to count for him and for his kingdom. I want to be all in. I want this to be my year. I want to give you just a couple little nuggets. I don't know about you, but listen, when I hear speakers, I can't remember everything they say. My hope is you remember something more than a sweet tea story today. And these are like little nuggets. If you just take them and put them in your pocket and go, I'm gonna just remember that. I'm gonna try to keep that in the front of my mind. The first thing is this. In order to follow Jesus, to be one of his followers, we have to count the cost. We have to count the cost. Man, I just want to tell you this morning that being a Christian, that being a Christ follower is not easy. I wish I could tell you it was. I wish I could tell you that today, if you made a decision to follow Jesus, the rest of your life would just be so easy. I guarantee everyone in this room would just go, I want to do that because life is hard. Because like the girl today who shared on this worship team, we lose people that we love. That sometimes life hurts. And I want you to understand that Jesus knows that. He knows today the hurts that are coming. That we have to count the cost. That to kind of start out the school year, it takes more than a trapper keeper in new clothes. We have to seriously go, I need to study this much to do better. To follow Christ, we need to understand, I need to do this to follow him. This is what it's going to cost. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus says this, for which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it. Otherwise, when he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all those who see it will begin to mock him, saying this man began to build but was not able to finish. I don't think anyone in your group would mock you. If you have a bad day, if you question if Jesus is real because life gets hard, I don't think anyone's going to mock you. But I need to hear you to hear me today that I've talked to people who have said those things, who have asked those questions. I'm hurting so much right now. Is God real? And in that moment, it is not the time to say, well, remember you were supposed to count the cost. These are the moments, these are the days when we count the cost. And we understand that following Jesus is not always going to be easy. And so the second thing is just as simple as counting the cost, is just to follow him. You heard last night about the rabbis and their disciples who would literally follow them and follow them so closely that their robes would be dirty from their rabbis' feet making dust. That this image of following Jesus that closely. In fact, in Matthew, again, Jesus says these words, if anyone would to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life would lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will a man profit if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Another song we did this morning. And I loved being in here, kind of thinking through and kind of repeating in my own heart and mind what I wanted to share with you. And hearing you sing these songs. We sang a song, that song Waymaker, where it says, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. That's what it means to follow him, to be so close to him that even when it hurts, and I'm sorry, I hate to keep bringing this up to point her out, and I hope you're okay with me doing this, but I watched a young girl stand on this stage a few moments ago with tears in her eyes, sharing with you the heartbreak and the hurt that she's experiencing, and lift her hands and worship our Father. That we follow him when it gets difficult. To be all in means that even when the days are difficult, we follow him. And so one last thing, and then I'll be done. There was a preacher in like the 1800s. His name is Charles Spurgeon. One of my favorite preachers. And he said this quote, and I want to share it with you today because it might just help you when you think about being all in, especially when it's difficult. He said this, he said, "I've learned to kiss the waves that toss me against the rock of ages." And what that simply means is the waves are the difficulties of life. The waves are the things that cause us to cry, that cause us to stay up at night. The things that make us question if God is even real. Those are the waves. And if you've ever been to the ocean, you know the waves are relentless. They never stop. They just keep coming. And you also have learned, if you've been to the beach on a day with big waves, that you can either enjoy those waves or you can get destroyed by those waves. I mean, how many of you have been standing talking to someone with your back to the ocean and their eyes just get huge and you know you might meet Jesus in that next moment? And the reality is that the difficult things come, and they always will. Life is hard. And so what we have to learn to do is kiss the waves. To realize that what's happening in those moments is not necessarily what's happening to us, but it's happening for us. That maybe, just maybe, in the moments that cause the deepest hurt, God is using that to draw us closer to him. In fact, in James, it says this: "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles," not if, not maybe, when they come, just like the waves, that you will consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you will know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when the endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. And here's like a little tidbit extra for you. Then you will be able to walk alongside others who are hurting and bring them comfort. So as we close, can I just encourage you that this could be your year? So count the cost. I promise you, as someone who has been through great pain, as someone who has been through great difficulties, it is worth it. It is worth it to be all in on Jesus. Count the cost. Follow him and learn to kiss the waves. Let me pray for you. God, I am not even going to pretend to know what is happening right now in the hearts and minds of students and adults who are in this room. God, for some, they may be right in the middle of a wave, right in the middle of a difficult season, that the pain is real and it's deep. God, there may be some in this room who have really not yet experienced that. They've kind of waded into the water, but the waves don't seem dangerous. And God, there may be someone in this room who's just come out of a season of suffering. God, my heart, my prayer is that no matter where we're at, that we would be all in on you. God, that we would consider the cost, that we would follow you, that we would learn to kiss the waves so that this truly could be our year. God, I lift every student and every adult to you that's in this room. We ask all of this in your awesome name. Amen.